Welcome back. Basic Education Minister Angie Motshekga says parents who are uncomfortable with their children going back to school can choose to homeschool them. Teachers Union SADTU, however, is urging the department to prioritise the safety of teachers and learners when schools reopen. To react to the minister's announcement, we speak to SADTU Secretariat Officer Xolani Fakude. Xolani, a very good morning to you, nearly afternoon. Your response to the statement by the minister?
Well, firstly, let me greet you and let me greet the viewers as well. As a union, we have noted, albeit with a lot of skepticism and a lot of caution, the proposed plans by the minister. The reason that we are skeptical and less than optimistic about even the tentative dates pronounced is that we are dealing here with a Department of Basic Education that has a very, very far less than impressive track record in terms of delivery. We know that as things stand right now, we are still looking at roughly 3,400 or so schools that still even need basic sanitation infrastructure, even before you can talk about COVID hygiene packages. So we are saying that the minister has to take this opportunity to really operate in a collaborative manner, not necessarily a top-down approach, because there is a difference. And we must emphasize that there is a difference between a consultation and an information session. So there must be an interest from the Department of Basic Education to really take the views of other stakeholders on board as well, so that we can come up with a very, very clear solution moving forward.
All this mean for your members?
Well, what we are going to do as a union is that we are going to continuously monitor the situation on the ground. We are going to continue to advise our members as we move closer towards even the tentative dates that have been pronounced. Because what we are saying is that the health and safety of our learners and of our educators is sacrosanct, and we cannot compromise that. So it is our view again that it cannot be that the Department of Basic Education is obsessed with a by hook or crook approach of completing the academic year as it is, as if we are not dealing with a novel pandemic, which is even proving to be evolving quite rapidly, as the epidemiologists tell us. So we are saying that the health and safety of our learners and of our educators remains a top priority.
So if you were to be given this full consultative status within the conversation, what would you like to see happening?
Well, firstly, we are going to say that the most important thing is that the data which informs the decision-making of the Department of Basic Education must be contextualized. It must be accurate, and it must consider all the elements that are within the value chain of the education system. It does not really make us happy when we see the leadership of the Department of Basic Education continuously referring to international case studies without even considering the very, very real conditions that teachers on the ground in South Africa deal with on a daily basis. So what we will say is that, Minister, we want transparency, we want consultation, and we are saying that the data that you are using currently to inform your decisions, we must also be privy to it as stakeholders, so that we can all move together as we seek a collective approach to this particular challenge.
So, in an ideal situation, when should learners go back to school?
Well, we are not going to be in a position as yet to say that, but what we will say is that we want all the stakeholders to continue engaging. We've got a number of concerns that we've already raised with the Department of Basic Education, but of course we remain quite optimistic. We are saying that there are issues around HR, for instance, and there are issues around the very reality that the curve in a South African context is still not necessarily flattening as yet. We are still approaching, for instance, the peak of the winter season. We are told that we are still going to reach the peak of the infections around July towards August. So we've got all those particular concerns, and we're saying that we need the Department of Basic Education to fully address those concerns, but in a very, very collaborative way, in a way that seeks also to find alternative ideas. It cannot be that what the Department of Basic Education just says and informs all the stakeholders, being the educators, being the learners, being the teachers, and that's just simply it. And we all go on like that. There must be collaboration. Education is a societal matter. When you open up schools, it's all about the entire value chain, by the way. But then what we insist on as a union is that the health and safety of our members and of our learners remains sacrosanct, and we're going to defend that.
Fight against COVID-19 itself. There have been concerns about, and I asked one senior official that I spoke to earlier, whether there will be testing at schools. What would you like to see here in terms of, as you say, keeping the safety of your members?
Well, what we want, we are very clear, is that all the conditions, all the regulations that have been set under Alert 4, that have been set by the Department of Labour, the Department of Health, and the World Health Organizations. Already there are standard operating procedures that have been put in place and sort of to assist us in governing the reopening of schools. So all that we are saying is that the Minister of Basic Education, as she went and took the nation into confidence yesterday, into a social contract, and said that these are the deliverables that on the in-time approach we are going to make sure are met even before schools are reopened. And we are saying that as a country, let us then hold her accountable. Let us see that happening, because the guidelines are there already. Let there just be compliance. That's what we are saying.
So as the nation wonders in terms of the way forward, and SADTU is a very important stakeholder, where to from here?
Well, I can also tell you that, fortunately, even all the teacher unions in the Education Labour Relations Council are actually working collaboratively. I can tell you with confidence right now that we've even conducted a survey questionnaire between the 16th and the 18th, whereby we asked all our members who are principals in the country, and we had a reach of about 40% of those, because this was about 9,000 principals who responded, and not just from SADTU, but all other unions. And they gave a very, very shocking picture of even the deep challenges that were already within the system, even before this COVID pandemic. They really gave quite a shocking picture, really. And we are saying, as organized labor, that we also want to assist the Department of Basic Education by verifying its own information, the information that it gets from the provinces, with the information that we are also in a position to utilize our structures on the ground and to get as well. So all that we are saying is that let us sit down with the Department of Basic Education, but the approach must be different. It was about consultation in good faith, not just information sessions called to advise stakeholders that this and this will happen, and therefore your views matter less. We will not necessarily take kindly to that.
A lot of sentiment came out last night, similar to what you're saying, where people were feeling that the minister was more prescriptive than engaging. What needs to be done to improve the relationship between the department and stakeholders such as Labour, but also to get to solutions that make sense to everyone?
Well, it's all about all of us as a country really seeing education for what it truly is, and which is a societal responsibility. It is not just, by the way, only education or the educators' unions that need to be engaged. It is also learner organizations. We saw a COSAS, for instance, release a statement, quite scathing, really. We saw other parents' organizations through SGB associations equally exclaiming the same sentiments. So it is important that all the stakeholders must at all material times be taken on board, but not just do it because you want to tick the box and say that I've spoken to the parents, I've spoken to educators, I've spoken to learners. No, it must actually be real. It must be done with good faith and with the intentions of seeking a collective approach to a common challenge that we are facing.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fakude, Xolani Fakude from SADTU, for talking to us today.